Today's video is all about Internet Computer, a blockchain that is dedicated to decentralizing the entire internet. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into this project, looking into some of the fundamentals such as the team, the tokenomics, the utility, and the overall value proposition, trying to figure out whether we should be bullish, whether we should be accumulating this project into our portfolio for the remainder of this bull run. So you know what, let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins, looking for opportunity. And the question is Internet Computer, ICP, an opportunity? Guys, we're going to be doing a deep dive. We're going to be looking into this project with a lot of detail here today, trying to figure out, all the little details that are fundamentally bullish so that we can make some critical decisions. Do we accumulate? Do we, introduce a bit of ICP into our portfolio for the remainder of this bull run? And that is a very, very important question. Another thing that we need to keep in mind is that we're going to try to keep the retail investor in mind here, because ultimately, we're getting a lot of new capital coming into this crypto space in preparation for this bull run. And we got to make sure that these projects are held accountable, basically giving us everything we need. All the documentation, all the numbers, and all the fundamental details to get us bullish, right? That's super important that, the packaging behind a project is well established, given the fact that they had an entire bear market to get themselves ready for the main event. And here we are, trying to navigate this main event, and we're trying to choose which projects deserve to get a spot in our portfolio. So let's begin. Let's begin by using the main website as our platform, our main platform to navigate the project. So right away, it's pretty engaging. You can see it looks pretty good. We have a bit of data here, block processed, and so on. ICP, research and development efforts over the years. Okay, that's cool. We have a little introduction paragraph here. I'm just going to quickly go over it. The Internet Computer hosts secure network resident code and data. So what we have to understand is, just with that statement, we have obviously coding and data that is supposed to be hosted on the network. And I'm assuming it's the blockchain. Build web apps without big tech and current IT. So decentralization, moving from traditional networks, traditional means of deployment, and so on. Applications are immune to cyber attacks and unstoppable. Pretty interesting. Capable of processing tokens and can run under exclusive DAO control. Build Web3 social media, games, DeFi, multi-chain apps, secure front ends, ledgers, enterprise apps, AI models. The internet is evolving fast, and it seems like ICP, Internet Computer, wants to provide all the software solutions necessary in order to get these applications in the Web3 space. Guys, it sounds like a very ambitious agenda. I'll be honest, the reality is this is not a new project. It had its moment in the past, and this was one of the main criticisms about Internet Computers is, besides some other factors that we will discuss also, but one of the main considerations in the past was that it was trying to do too much. And in fact, if you start looking at it in today's environment here in the crypto space, it's not that bad, right? As an infrastructure project, it's not that bad. The reality is that when it did come out, we weren't ready for such an idea. We were used to, Ethereum. We were used to basically a smart contract platform that would delegate all the little details to other projects. So what I mean by that is, you have to understand is ICP wants to basically do it all. It wants to, as you can tell, it wants to integrate every single aspect of Web3 under one roof, which sounds pretty good, right? Obviously, it also sounds centralized, but it's not. But you get what I mean. Like, because it wants to do everything all on one roof, it's highly concentrated. It's a very ambitious thing. However, you look at the counterpart or the smart contract platforms of the past, such as Ethereum. Ethereum doesn't do much. right? All it does is, basically allow projects to build on top of it and ultimately be a settlement layer and ultimately allow these projects to involve or integrate these software solutions that ICP wants to do natively. So, for example, social media. You can go on Ethereum and find a social media platform, games, DeFi, multi-chain, but they're not part of ICP themselves. Now, ICP is quite interesting also in addition because its infrastructure is what makes it really interesting, is that it's a decentralized infrastructure, whereas we rely on, for example, with Ethereum, we're relying on Ethereum's projects to provide their own decentralized infrastructure, where ICP essentially is providing it for any projects that are built on it. So it's almost like a one-stop shop, in-house, one-stop solution for everything Web3. And it wants to have everything readily available. Now, this is quite interesting because I focus a lot on ecosystem growth. For me, ecosystem growth is going to provide the greatest advantage with regards to utility of a coin or a token, because really, as the ecosystem grows, there's more use cases, there's more utility for the token, and for me that's important. Obviously, we want to make sure that there's enough demand, as the supply increases, and this is a pivotal thing that I want to discuss in a second, because it is an issue that we are having with many L1s that are coming out with unlimited max supply scenarios. Okay, so I know I'm going a little bit everywhere, but I'm trying to lay out the landscape here that ultimately Internet Computer is a very ambitious project. However, it's not as ambitious as it was in the past, given the way we are progressing through the Web3 space. Okay, so let's continue, and I'll kind of dabble into what I mean here with some good examples and some context. Now we keep on going down. We see chain fusion, create smart contracts that can basically trustlessly interact and coordinate multiple blockchains. So we're talking about interoperability, and this is the concept of being chain agnostic is a buzzing in the last little while amongst chains, where they feel that projects shouldn't be dedicated or don't need to be dedicated to one chain. And I think ICP is offering that as an option there. Make AI immune to cyber attacks, decentralized AI, making it tamper proof. This is interesting as well. Immune to AI, cyber attacks is obviously good. Safety, security, helping with global Web3 ecosystem grow. Of course, that's the case. You can join their community, check out what they're all about. Real world cases. Experience full stack decentralization. Full stack decentralization. I think that's where I was going with what I was trying to say, is they literally provide a full tech stack. Okay, the infrastructure, the DPIN, everything, even to you can deploy a complete website front and back end, and even get your domains decentralized. Everything is basically decentralized with ICP. Now, this is a very, very interesting concept, and beyond their time when they released. The problem is that the release wasn't the greatest, and I feel like the market is still recovering psychologically for what ICP has done, or how ICP has positioned themselves in the market's mind, if you get what I mean. So we're gonna get to more of this in a second. So from the DAO, this is important. They do have a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, that decentralize the authority over the organization, and some of the capital that is infused into this project, which is good. NFTs and social media, Internet Computer has something for everyone. Okay, that's fine. They have a roadmap, which we're going to talk about in a second. Latest global press, they got a lot of news. They got a blog. They're on X. They're posting. They're active. This and that. There is a little bit of a slump that they're in with regards to activity, but nonetheless, they are showing face, and that's a good thing. Much more than I see on many other projects, for that matter. Okay, so I'm trying to be very neutral here and present the information as needed. We got a couple of socials. I don't see any Discord, which I think that based on such a big project, I think a Discord would do very, very well. And I did try to get on their Telegram, but their Telegram is, you have to apply. And I feel like that's a lot of resistance to join a community. I said, I do a lot of deep dives, I do a lot of research, and I've never seen such a restriction to get involved. And that's a problematic thing, especially if you want individuals to, foster a community or build a community or feel a part of a community. So you got to have a Discord or a Telegram, and if you're going to have one or the other, or maybe ideally both, I would say that the Telegram should be a little bit more of an open community, whereas the Discord could have a little bit more restrictions and make it a little bit more formal, because it has the capabilities of, fostering a deeper, more valuable conversation. So that's that. But really, from that perspective, as far as communications go and marketing, I think there's could be a little bit more effort there to foster community, given that ICP, in my opinion, is currently struggling with fostering a positive outlook or a positive the community needs to start turning more positive, given the fact that their history isn't the greatest. Now we're going to talk about the history. I know I keep on alluding to a dark history, and it has a lot to do with the tokenomics of the past, and we're gonna touch upon that at the right time. So let's keep on going. Now, I did open up a lot of tabs. I'm not going to go through that live right here, but I do have them open up already, okay? The ones that are relevant, the ones that I feel like are necessary. I did find a white paper. I'm just going to, throw this out here. It's a very tech-based white paper, okay? Meaning that you're not going to get the typical deep dive crypto project white paper here. This is more of a tech-based white paper where you're going to know about the technology at the core level, which is quite a good read if you're into that, but it's beyond the scope of an investor to a certain degree. It's the depth is into the technology. You start getting to physics and mathematics, and although I appreciate all of this, but the most retail investors or crypto investors want a deep dive or want documentation regarding the project in general, not just focusing on the tech itself. So yes, it's a great white paper, but it's a tech white paper. So what I'm going to do is kind of go through the other documentation, other third-party websites to kind of give you the information we need. So I would suggest that ICP come up with a Git book that fosters a Web3 type of documentation, where people like us that want to know about the project from a coin perspective, or it makes it a little bit easier, the research a lot easier. To have to dig around, it's a lot of friction, especially for newcomers that don't know what even they're looking for. Okay, so packaging from Web3 perspective needs to be improved, but from a tech perspective, there's a lot here. Feel free to go and read that. So I found this third-party website. Guys, it's pretty good, okay? So it's internetcomputer.academy. They get into a lot of the things that the actual formal or a legitimate website doesn't really clearly explain, which is unfortunate, and it is the tokenomics and a lot of other aspects. And you guys know I focus a lot on the tokenomics, on the economics of things. This is very important. Now, we're going to touch upon its history in just a second here. There's still a lot of fun, and it has to do with the fact that early stages of ICP, the token distribution was highly centralized, and the price dropped quite a bit. It was very hyped. A lot of people were really hyped about ICP when it first came out, and it was hit the market at a very high valuation. And that's a great thing, of course. Obviously, from on a price perspective, when you see a high value, you start to see, okay, maybe that thing is amazing, and it is amazing. I'm not saying it isn't, but the reality is the market didn't think that at that current moment, and we saw that early investors, early stakeholders started selling off. And I'm not going to get into too much detail there, because we got to get over the past, because I think that could damper your views on the future. But the reality is that without a community, without fostering a new community, without those proper socials in place, we're still going to fester on the past. So this is why I mentioned is that they need a Discord and Telegram, so to help the space move on from the past, and also to start introducing the reality of their tokenomics. So this is where we are right now, and it's a little bit of a different landscape. So token symbol ICP. Token name, Internet Computer. It's a protocol, of course. Initial supply, okay. 469 million emissions. There is unlimited supply here. Max supply is unlimited. So we have to understand that they have an emission rate of about 10% per year, and then 5% within the next 8 years. So what happens is that their emissions is slowly going to come down over time, and therefore make it slightly, and the inflation rate won't be so high. Because ultimately, even though it is maxed, the total supply is still right now capped at around 469 million. Now we're going to talk about that, because really the total supply and the current circulating supply suggests that there's not a lot more tokens that are going to enter the market unless the total supply increases. And this is some of the concern. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. I just want to make it clear for those of you that are familiar with Ethereum, it has a very similar, Ethereum tokenomics, especially with the burning mechanism. So burning mechanism is important, especially when you have a max supply, because you want to start to ask yourself, what is going to hinder the project from becoming totally diluted, or to the point where the inflation is going to, put dilution pressure on the price? That is the major concern. And usually when that's the case, we have a burning mechanism. And obviously the decision to introduce more tokens into the space is either managed by a contract or it's managed by the DAO. Okay, and in this case, we have a DAO. We got the contract. We can clearly see the emissions, how it dampers over time, which is good. But more importantly, it's the burning mechanism, because the burning mechanism is a systematic way that the circulating supply, or the supply that is going to be in circulation, is going to be kind of like taken away from circulation or removed from circulation, and that will keep the emissions or the inflation rate at bay and keep it realistic and healthy. Okay, and their burning mechanism is interesting because it is directly related to the use of the blockchain. And this is a good thing and obviously a bad thing. Okay, so we're going to get into that a little bit more. Let's just keep on going, and then we'll try to tie in it all together all at once when we start to get more information. We have the total supply, like I mentioned. At time of writing the article, fine, it's a little bit higher than this at this current moment. I'll give you up-to-date data in a second, because this is from 2022, and it's a few years old, of course, but it's not that far off, because again, the emissions kind of stable down a little bit. Now, the funding rounds, this is a lot of historical scenarios, where a lot of tokens were given to private sale and strategic rounds. And this is the token distribution. Early contributors, 9.5. Seed round, you can see 24, almost 25%. Strategic partnerships, another 7%. Pre-sale, 5%. So we're getting a lot of tokens allocated to early investors, and we rely in this case on vesting schedules and token unlock schedules to protect dilution. The problem is that when the project is really early, sometimes these unlocks happen early as well, even within the year or within the first cycle. And as I mentioned about new projects that are entering the space this cycle, believe me that the bear market is going to be ruthless on those projects, the same way the bear market was ruthless on ICP, because these individuals that get in during this in the past, or when they get launched in May 2021, those individuals took profit. And they took profit really early. Okay, so we're gonna have to consider this, is that there's a lesson learned from ICP. New projects, most likely they come out to the market overvalued and hyped up to an extreme way. And number two, there's going to be early investors, whether it be unlocked in 6 months or unlocked in a year. Those unlocks on peak prices will take profit. All those individuals will take profit, and the price will drop. And you got to be prepared for that. And you can, in a way, you can't blame them, because the reality is that those VCs are there to make money the same way you are. And early investors, early stakeholders that got in on airdrops and locked up liquidity and all that and took the risk, they want to make money. So they're going to be taking profit. So we have to understand that it's our job to be defensive and understand the framework of a project. And this is where the history comes back in. Now that we are in a current state that there's all these individuals sold off already, we are almost looking at a refreshed or new outlook for ICP Internet Computer, because the risk of dilution is no longer there. The tokens that were once concentrated into For example, the foundation, because even the foundation sold some off, the pre-sales and the strategic partnerships, and look at this, the seed round, these guys are already distributed their tokens from 2021. They're already hitting the market and they distributed across many wallets, and this is a good thing. So this is the initial breakdown. The investors, that's quite a bit, and then founders and project, that's a lot. As you can see, this is how the supply join network launched. Look at that. These guys had, you know, a big portion of the tokens that were in circulation. Okay, so that's that. The history was pretty bad. Now the present is a lot better. Now we can see that this is the Genesis allocation, as I mentioned, right? You want to look at the history and exactly how that worked. You know, looking at 50 participants, but how many tokens did they get? 9.5, you know, Genesis allocation. Look how many tokens they got. You know, there's quite a bit in the seed round. Look how many tokens. And the foundation that also sold off, unfortunately, not really good. And this is where it got a lot of the FUD in the past, that the foundation also sold some tokens. And that wasn't a good look. But this is all voted on. And guess who voted on it, since the project was so new, was the individuals that had all the tokens, or the majority of the tokens. And the people that had the majority of the tokens were early contributors and not the general retail market that bought in early on ICP. So this is where all the negativity came from. But that negativity, in my opinion, is now over, because, again, those tokens got distributed to many wallets and the sell-off ended. Now that we're in a new cycle, could we give ICP or internet computers another opportunity? Okay, so talked about a little bit about history. Just understand that things have changed since here, and the reality is, you know, we run less risk of dilution because of it. Okay, so it's a lot healthier. Now, I want to quickly go look at CoinGecko here so that we can, let's quickly look at ICP. Okay, let me just quickly search ICP so we can see exactly tokenomics. Market cap right now is at 4.6 billion. Okay, that's fine. And fully diluted evaluation, you can see, is at about $5 billion. And then we have the circulating supply at $447 million, which is $1 billion, which is good. Sorry, $1 million. Okay, but then the total is 527. So what we're looking at is the fact is there's not big of a difference. So the majority of the tokens are already in circulation in comparison to the total. So again, I'm missing a little bit more tokens to be distributed, but we'll talk about how those are going to be distributed, and because ultimately they're going to be in forms of rewards. Okay, so 477 million and 527 million is not too far off. So the risk of dilution is not there from the total supply perspective, but the max supply is the issue. That a lot of new people, when they come in and see that, and they see this unlimited symbol, they start to worry. Because obviously, what do you mean? You can print more at any given time? No, that is not really what that means. That means that there is a mechanism, as you know, infrastructure project, to allow the DAO to vote for more tokens if necessary. You know, introducing more tokens is not a bad thing, especially when the ecosystem grows. If they need more, they need more. What could we do? Right? That's the reality. It's healthy for the project itself to have more. It creates less barriers to entry for new projects and more ecosystem growth. So this is a very important aspect of the tokenomics. Okay, so let's get back into some of the other details. I found the Internet Computer Wiki, which I found to be really cool because it spells everything out very nicely. Okay, so lots of research went into this because I wanted to make sure that we provided all the details necessary. Now, the total supply, okay, you can look at the circulation page, and you can see that the foundation, I just want to throw this out here, is a Dfinity Foundation, is a big part of the ICP, or the Internet Computer Identity. If you're going on socials, if you're going on LinkedIn, if you're going anywhere, it's almost like Internet Computer is an identity of itself, and Dfinity is an identity of itself. And the reality is that's the way it should be done. Nobody owns Internet Computer, right? If they did, there would be a group of individuals directly associated. In fact, the group of individuals that are associated, they're associated to Dfinity. And Dfinity is the governing foundation that governs how Internet Computer works. And that's how they decentralize the authority over ICP. right? So this is an important thing, because this is how we separate projects from being commodities and securities, you know, right? You don't want this to be defined as a security, so we need to decentralize authority. And this is a very important thing. Okay, so circulating supply is a token except liquid non-stake, which I kind of disagree with some of what they say here. The circulating supply definition was updated. Okay, and the NNS, which is basically the nervous system of the DAO, with the Definity Foundation. So staked ICP supply is the sum of all the tokens that are locked in dissolving in neurons at any given time that are earned rewards. Okay, so they're earning rewards for staking, and they're staked up for a certain period of time. There's a minimum lockup of 6 months. That's fine, and they basically get rewarded by allowing them to vote. Okay, that's pretty cool, pretty good there. And that's that. Now, numbers, just quickly look. Genesis, that's good. They provided a Genesis date, May 10th, 2021, total supply, and circulating supply, 123 million. So what happened is that this was a bit of tokens that put that dilution pressure and caused the price to fall, especially when they came out with a high valuation. That was the history, but now the current, we're talking about November 13th, so it's fairly recent. Total supply is 525 million ICP. Okay, now circulating supply, like I mentioned, is 474 million, which makes it about 90.3% of the total, which is healthy. Because that means that the risk is that the extra 10% comes in, and that's going to happen over time as people get rewarded. Okay, and this is really important. Now we have to have, let's put it, faith, quote unquote faith, that the DAO will vote if they're ever going to introduce more tokens to the total supply, that the democracy and the way the decentralized authority will kick in and will do the best thing, and they will vote on the best decisions for the entire protocol rather than a few centralized identities. This is the theory that we need to, kind of hinge upon. So it's not bad here. We just need to understand is that the DAO has the control over the price a little bit now going forward. And if you become a holder, a staker, you are going to be part of the DAO process. Now, the more tokens you hold, the more you could vote. This is the way that the system works. Unfortunately, the whales have a little bit more, more say. And this is where a lot of people criticize this type of DAO structure. Understood. I get it. Power shouldn't be allocated to your wallet size, and some people may argue maybe it should. This is not what we're here for. Make your critical decisions, guys. It's important to understand that there's always two sides of the coin, no pun intended. So we got a lot of staked ICP already. About 45% is of total supply staked up. That's pretty healthy if you think about it. And we can see there's a bit of stats here. 85 stake for 1 year and 59 stake for 8 years type of thing. So pretty good. Now, where things get interesting, and for me, it's the major criticism about the project, okay? Because everything else, fine, it's ambitious. Who cares, right? We need ambitious projects. We need innovative projects that are going to push boundaries. I'm all about that. Just because the environment is not ready for this ambitious project, it doesn't mean that it's not good. It's just that the society needs to, evolve or maybe catch up to the ideas of a lot of these new innovations. Speculative technologies is a common practice. We sometimes see projects come out too early and just have to wait and endure before it gets picked up, and sometimes they never get picked up. We got to be real about that. But what really bothers me is the inflation in the way the mechanism works. So inflation is done in two forms. Okay, for two reasons, tokens will enter the market. So the NNS, the actual the DAO, let's call it, they vote for rewards. So for governance, that's what you get, right? So ICP tokens for two reasons: for voting, rewards, and for a node provider, rewards. Okay, so if you have staked tokens, you'll get rewarded and you can act into the governance. And if you are a node provider, securing the network and decentralizing the DePIN infrastructure, you will get rewarded. So this is what we see. We get rewarded, and this is a very typical thing. And you can see that voting rewards are slowly diminishing, and we need that to diminish because, again, we want to see that the amount of tokens entering circulation go down over time, making it not so inflationary. But the bigger problem is the deflationary mechanism. Now, it's not a problem in itself because, you know what, it's fine. The reality is that ICPs get burned for three reasons. And this is important because this is how we're going to keep inflation at bay. Mint cycles, okay, used to pay for compute and storage. So what happens is that your ICPs get put into cycles. You can sell your ICPs for cycles, and these cycles are used to pay for compute and storage. Compute and storage are services that are paid by the developers that create projects on the network, right? So instead of the common people that are interacting with ICP to pay and for using and pay for interacting, it's the developers that are paying, and part of this gets burnt. Okay, to mint cycles used to pay and compute storage, they get burnt. So this is important, right? We have a portion of the tokens that are getting burnt here based on the developer usage, the devs that use the network and the services that the network provides. For transaction fees, so they get burnt. When you get any type of transaction fee out there, they get burnt. For failed NNS proposals, so when you go on the governance page and you go and you vote on certain things or create a proposal and it doesn't get voted on and it fails, they get burned. Those tokens get burned. Those coins get burned. So the amount of ICP burned since Genesis can be found here. You can go check that out. There is a burning mechanism that is active. This is the problem. Now, if you start comparing, the rewards, okay, versus the burning, the rewards are currently still surpassing the burning. So what's happening is that I know it's very minimal, but it still exists, is that from a tokenomics perspective, there is more tokens being issued than there are being burnt. Why is that the case? Well, it's the case is that the ecosystem is not big enough or strong enough to cause more burning, right? More transaction fees being burnt, more proposals, more mint cycles for more compute and storage operations happening, which means the ecosystem, there's not enough devs developing. So if devs are not developing, no compute and storage. If there's no applications, there's less transactions. And if the DAO is not that active, then the proposals, or maybe the proposals are dying out. I really think that it's the first two that is the biggest issue for a deflation at the end of the day. But if you look at the inflation, they're getting rewards. They're getting rewards for staking. So people are staking. As you can see, the data looks great, right? 45% of the total supply is being staked up, and that's great. People are earning passively. But okay, but then what's happening with the actual blockchain? Is there things happening to cause those rewards to be offset? And this is the problem, okay, guys? So it's a very similar to thing that what Ethereum has at the current moment, because ETH did introduce its burning mechanism, but there's not enough. There was a point where Ethereum was deflationary, but there has been a good amount of time where it hasn't been. In fact, more tokens have been entering the market than not. So we have to really worry about that because, we want to make sure that there's no dilution based on tokens being entering the market, okay? So paying for compute storage, as I mentioned, DApp and smart contract developers pay compute and storage costs with cycles. So cycles are acquired from the NNS by covering ICP to cycles. So you can buy cycles using ICP, and then the developers go and use these cycles to pay for computation and storage, right? This is great, but they're not doing that. There's not enough of it. So we need more of it so we can basically flip the relationship, more burning than there is more tokens entering supply. Now there's a bit of history. You can see all of this seed round, strategic round, pre-sale, airdrops, all of this caused too much liquidity earlier on in the history of ICP that honestly didn't lead to a really, really good launch, and it left a lot of people salty, and I think that they're still hurting and recovering from that. Okay, so let's move on from here. I think this is a very clear resource for tokenomics and understanding exactly how that works. Now, if you start looking at what I was saying, again, the ICP supply, guys, it's very clear. This is the official dashboard, which I find very, very useful. It's slightly on an incline, okay? Slightly on an incline, which means that there's more tokens entering supply than there is, not entering, which means that it's inflationary, slowly but surely. And that's not a good look, given the fact that history has proven that dilution was an issue based on people selling off tokens. So, there's a lot of good other data here, guys. Voting reward functions, the rewards are diminishing. So if the rewards are diminishing, how can we get burning happening? This is actually should be in the favor of the circulating supply, but it's not even working out. That means there's a lot of it. There's a little bit more. There's more that needs to happen for the actual blockchain in order to work. This is working in its favor. The fact that less rewards are entering the market, but it's still struggling with this upward sloping supply. That's a little bit not really good. Now, total ICP burn, yes, there's a lot burned. If you look at out of all time, there was a good amount. In 1 year, in 3 months, in 1 month, we're slowly growing. That's good. And I feel like this is a good sign that ICP could be digging itself out of a runt from the last few years. And this is why I feel like maybe ICP needs to be looked at from a different light. Okay, so keep this all in mind. I know history is hard to get over, but ultimately you don't want to miss out on an opportunity. I think ICP is decent. So far, everything's looking pretty good. Let's continue on. Now, what is it used for? As I kind of alluded to a little bit of this already, what ICP is used for. The token itself is meant for governance. Of course, cycle conversion, buying cycles using ICP. We talked about that. Staking ICP. We talked about that. And transactions. We talked about that. Very, very extremely typical across a lot of layer ones or even L0s, and type of thing. So pretty good. Developers use it, community members, node operators, and neuron holders. So basically, these are staked people that are basically staked up. And, it's pretty good. Ultimately, this is very clear and transparent what its utility for. I appreciate the clarity, and that's about it. Right? This third-party website does a great job, providing a lot of the information. And this is the dashboard, once again, a little bit more data, a little bit more conversion rate to cycles, if you want to see what's going on here. I kind of like all this stuff. You guys into metrics and data, feel free to go check this out. The dashboard, the ICP dashboard, has you covered with a lot of the little things that you may be interested in looking at. And then we got the blog, not the blog. Well, this is kind of like a blog, but the ecosystem. Right, there's a lot of talk about what they got going on here in the ecosystem. There's a lot of small projects. Okay, this is something we have to understand. There are many projects here, and it does look very healthy. I agree with that, and it's great. I love to see all of these little projects, Stoic Wallet, and we got Tracks, and, canisters, which basically canisters in terms of Internet Computer is another word for smart contracts. Okay, so they refer to them as canisters because you can not only put the contract itself, the code, but the data, and you can put complete applications on the blockchain, which is great, for scalability and complete decentralization. And their argument is this. Okay, I'm going to take a moment and explain the back end a little bit. Their argument, or the way traditional smart contract platforms work, is that their infrastructure are usually centralized. Okay, we've seen a bit of a shift in the last little while. Internet Computer is going to have a hard time arguing that all smart contract platforms are like this. But the reality is that the ones of the past, when it came out, this was the case. You had the smart contract, and everything that revolved around the smart contract was either third party, right? Whether it be an Oracle, using an Oracle and having a choke point through using an Oracle, or using AWS and Azure or something like that. A centralized storage in order to provide or host the data for your Web3 application. Now, that in itself, and you guys know that I criticize that heavily, especially with AI, because at the end of the day, AI requires an infrastructure, and unless it's decentralized using a DePIN infrastructure, it's just a Web2 project with a token on it. And I keep on repeating this because it's a fact, right? Now, internet computers since the beginning, it always said this, and it always said the value that I offer here is that the entire projects that get listed or that get deployed on the internet computer blockchain are going to be completely decentralized, because they provide the one-stop shop for everything decentralized for Web3. So it's like, it's basically giving these programmers the ability to build decentralized apps faster, easier than ever before, but in addition, completely decentralized. And this is a value proposition that we are seeing now in this cycle, in this bull run. A lot of those L1s come out with their DPIN. This is how the DPIN idea is coming around. Now, the only difference is that, for example, if you want a DPIN application to be built on Ethereum, you can't just use Ethereum, because where are you going to use which project are you going to use to decentralize your hosting of your data? You got to find another project to do that is built on Ethereum. Whereas Internet Computer does not rely on other projects. It has its own DPIN infrastructure to be used. You get what I mean? So it's a one-stop shop. This is important. I think that projects of today are realizing that is what needs to be done. ICP realized that it needed to be done way, way earlier. The execution is what got ICP really not really the greatest response from the market. Okay, so again, a lot of good projects, little projects that are being built. We got wallets, we got, whatever this is, foundation belonging to luxury goods, NFTs, air gaps, and I can see some sort of mapping and, I don't know, deploy vector database, machine learning, tons of stuff, good stuff. And hopefully this could eventually increase the burn mechanism so that we can see a deflationary, tokenomics. So this is what we're hoping for eventually. We got a lot of stuff here, guys. Dig around, go check it out. Looks good. We even got a Boom DAO. You can deploy your DAO completely on ICP, collaborating hub for web, gaming, and lots of good stuff. So I'm not going to go through it. I don't see any major brands here, and that's why I made it very clear that I'm seeing a lot of small projects. D-Social is probably one that I've seen before, but still, other than that, small projects, but many of them. This is how it begins, guys. Okay, so I'm trying to stay as neutral as possible, because again, I have no affiliation to internet computers, but we got to understand that maybe the history needs to be forgotten. Give this thing a second chance. The roadmap is pretty decent, much better than I've seen on many other projects. At least you got a lot of details as to where they're going with things, completed, when they've completed stuff, what they're currently working on, in progress, things like that, various categories, compute platform, the decentralized AI. You get what I mean? This requires a DPIN infrastructure. I don't see the words Azure or AWS. As soon as I see those logos and things, it bothers me, and I don't see that anywhere. Why? Because Internet Computer offers their own DPIN infrastructure, chain fusion. This is good. Privacy, everything that you want to see on a typical L1 without outsourcing some of this stuff. They host in-house, and they have their own roadmap for it. My only criticism here, and I know a lot of projects do this nowadays, is they don't provide dates. And I'm going to say this again. I say this a lot. Guys, you don't need to tell us exactly the day and the time in a second of when things are going to be deployed or finished, but give us a little bit of a time frame quarterly, at least, so that we know where you're putting your efforts in the next little while. Okay, a bit of accountability to a degree is healthy, so that we know that you're committed and you mean business. Ultimately, that's what I mean here, but seriously, this is not bad. And given the fact that they have a blog where they do post a lot of their, what they're working on and what they're doing is just good on Medium, go check it out. A lot of reading. You can see they got Internet Computer and ETH AI Center. They got a lot of little partnerships going on, a few, but nothing major with any major ones. There's a few that we could be a bit more bullish on, but still, it's hard to find. Usually you find let's say an AI project, team up with a DPIN project, and that's clear why, because AI is one thing, and decentralizing its database for the language learning model is ideal. So they look for a partnership with a DPIN. In this case, there is no need for that. They have their own DPIN. They got everything, again, one-stop shop. So it's pretty cool. Ecosystem community, got a lot of documentation here, a lot. And of course, if you join their X, you can go see what they're talking about. We got a nice presentation here talking about various aspects of their growth in the last 3 years. And of course it's been a bit rough for them in the beginning. I'll admit. We'll look at the price, because the price is a good indication of market sentiment. Obviously, emotional supply and demand, and full stack decentralized solutions. This is exactly what I'm trying to allude to. And you see right away they compare. That's their value proposition. He was comparing AWS and all of this, and of course that's what they are able to put everything all on the blockchain, stored on chain, everything on chain. So a front end, back end, data storage, middleware, and that's why they call their contracts canisters, because it's not just the contract, it's literally everything gets put on chain. Now, is that bullish to you? I know it sounds quite interesting, and it still sounds very ambitious. But again, new innovative technologies that are speculative, this is how usually they push boundaries, and sometimes the society and the markets are not ready for it. And usually when there's a huge leap, there's a bit of resistance before things actually happen and it gets adopted. That is the strategy. That is the actual limitation here, is ICP's leap to this type of infrastructure actually going to get adopted, or is it going to be too late and fizzle away by the time it does, guys? That's the major concern here. And of course, the tokenomics still being inflationary to a degree, because literally there's more tokens entering supply than they are being burnt. So we need adoption, more transactions, better tokenomics, bigger growth, adoption. You can see how ecosystem, it all kind of intertwines. And when you're critiquing a project, it's like, what is the problem here then? Is it the tokenomics? Not really. If you think about it, their burn mechanism is fine. Is it the ecosystem? Well, they got a lot of different projects there, small ones, but is it really their fault? They're still fairly new, let's say. They're still in the growth phase. Okay, fine. Then where's the fault? It's a little bit of everything. The problem is a little bit of everything. It's hard to really pinpoint, because they all these little points, intersect at a point of inflection, where ultimately it's hard to point a finger. Okay, let's take a look at the team here for a second. We got the Dfinity, as I mentioned, their ICP, Internet Computer Identity, is really by Dfinity. That's what you really are looking for. This is where the founders and everybody, the devs, all work for. They work for Dfinity, and Dfinity is the DAO. Okay, this is a decentralized autonomous organization. Now, I'm just going to scroll through this a little bit. We got software engineers, we got co-founder of this and that, we got staff engineer, team lead, engineer everywhere, engineer, software engineer, partner, CEO, quantum, co-founder. You got very talented, smart individuals, a young, fresh team, ready to hustle and do their software engineer again, keep on going, engineers, and that's where you get all the talent. This, as a Web3 guy myself and a software engineer myself, I feel like ultimately this intrigues me. The fact that they emphasize the importance of having, a proper full stack team that is ready to go and deploy innovative technologies. I've seen plenty of projects. Again, I'm going to use AI as an example, that have great marketing team, great this, great that, and have so much experience in their designated field, but then have a part-time developer, or don't even have a developer on board that is specialized in blockchain technology or anything like that. That's a problematic thing. Here, there's no lack of talent with regards to engineering and software. I don't see any problem. Financial markets and strategy, you got all kinds of stuff. I'm sure they got even a legal team happening here. There's economists, token economists, media marketing, lots of stuff here. I think what needs to be really focused on is the founder. The founder is, the lead here, because you can see they hired the talent necessary. So the founder himself, as being the main face, is Dominic Williams. Okay, this is an individual, Zurich. He's from Zurich, and ultimately he has a lot of documentation here. You can see he's the founder, president, and chief scientist, obviously computer scientist, and yeah, he founded it and worked it. Now he has a history in this space, and from different avenues. Of course, School of Life. He had an application that he built and did very well, and you can see he's a engineering consultant. But he basically came from the blockchain space. He came from Ethereum. He was one of the first individuals in the founding round of Ethereum to be involved, right? So that's a pretty good history to have, right? You were there when Ethereum was being, taken off the ground, right? Engineered, and that's definitely a very, very vital piece of experience for the future, and how to understand where the history came from. So it's not bad, because given Ethereum being the first smart contract platform out there, it's an important history, and I think that's great, right, that he's involved. Now you can see he's got a bachelor's degree in computer science and so on. He's well connected, and I think he's a great speaker. We saw that he was on X there speaking his mind. And he's speaking his mind many, many times all over socials. So good stuff. I think he's a great leader. I think he's doing his thing. He's got many connections, and that's about it, right? So we got a solid team here, right? Solid team. We clearly defined what the issues were, what are the limitations, of course, we talked about, and some of the strengths that it has, and the ambitions that it has. Now, ultimately, what's the sentiment here? And of course, a lot of the sentiment could be explained by price action. Before we do that, guys, let's wrap up this this deep dive with a bit of a summary. I'm going to make sure that I get this out to you guys on the socials. If you want to review this, I'm going to have links in the description and all that kind of stuff. So for sure, this might be a great resource to kind of refresh your memory as we go through this bull run, to talk about what ICP is all about. We talked about tokenomics. Just to quickly talk about this. It's ICP's the ticker. It's about $10 at the current moment. I know the market in the last little while has been a little bit slumpy, but right around this mark. Market cap is quite, it's high. So it's one of the large caps. We got to understand that $4.6 billion, that's pretty big. That's fine. What could we get out of it? It's a tough way to evaluate. It's hard to evaluate a project that really, I'll be honest, doesn't have much competition. This one-stop shop type of thing is very, very, is untouched for the most part. They're doing a great job, but it's not something that, we saw really pick up in a very strong way. We're hoping that Deepin could be a very strong narrative. And of course, if that's the case, ICP should be doing well. But at $10 at the current moment, with a $4.7 billion market cap, we have no choice but to say it's a bit high. Trading volume, it's not bad. 8.7% of the market cap is currently being traded, which is pretty healthy. I like that. I like between 5 to 10. That's usually pretty decent. So smack in the middle is not bad. Supply, 91% more or less, is already in circulation of the total supply. Max supply is, like I mentioned, is unlimited, but again, it's going to be subject to voting on the DAO, and how, if they're going to introduce more tokens to the total and this and that. We have to put faith in the democratic process that exists on the on the DAO, and token holders are going to be basically rewarded with the ability to vote. Okay, so that's typically how it works. And fully diluted, obviously quite interesting to see that we are seeing the project do well. And as tokens enter, it's going to put a bit more pressure on dilution, but we'll take it day by day, guys, and see what happens. Now, ecosystem, 7 out of 10. The reason why I'm going to be very, very how can I say, modest here about it, because I can't clearly put blame on the ecosystem for its current issues, right? And because the ecosystem is good, small projects, many of them, growing ecosystem needs to grow more in order to improve burn rate. And that's the reality. If it grows more transactions, more burning, less supply entering the market. We saw the chart that I showed you that the supply was increasing. So ultimately, it's because it's small, no major projects. Okay, that's not the greatest. I would love to see some major ecosystem projects, nothing that big at the current moment. And the fact that it's not big enough to sustain a deflationary rate is still a bit of an issue. So we have no choice but to say, look, it's got some work to do. It's not that bad, but is it an opportunity? It could be, to see a bit more growth there. Utility, okay, this is good. Governance, cycle conversions. We know that we can sell ICPs to buy cycles, and cycles are used for by developers to purchase software solutions for their applications, computing and storage type of things. Staking, ICP, obviously you get the token, you stake it up, you earn rewards. Transactions and burning mechanism, obviously that's what the token is used for, to burn, also to make the project deflationary. Very typical, very clear. 10 out of 10 right there for me. Roadmap, good play-by-play in many categories. That's great. Lots of good detail. Awesome. Dates defining timeframes would be good. And this is something that I would stress, just a little bit of detail with regards to where they're going to be putting the efforts in the next little while. The team. Guys, it's a great team. Team includes researchers, developers, cryptographers from leading institutions like Stanford and many others, guys. There's many other, much talent in the team, and the actual founder has a lot of experience and all of that. So I'm going to give the team 10 out of 10. There's no reason why I should be doubting such a massive team with tons of talent behind it. Okay, so 10 out of 10 right there. 7 out of 10 for socials. Why? Because in the last little while on X, they've been down 3.24 thousand followers. Okay, yes, they have 683,000 followers. That's great, no doubt. But they've been coming down 40% in the last 30 days. That's not a good look. And despite that it coming down, we're seeing 106 X posts for the last 30 days, up 21%. So they're putting effort, but they're still coming down. Now, why is that the case? Why is there an inverse relationship there? Usually that's called a divergence. And for me, that's not a good thing, right? So I'm wondering what's happening there. I think their marketing team needs to really evaluate how they are communicating with the market. There's a lack of communication there, and I think it's stemming from there's a lack of community. I don't see any Discord, unfortunately, and I'm not seeing an easy way to get involved in the community. I wanted to be a part of the Telegram to see if I can ask some questions, and I usually do that when I do deep dives, but I'm not going to wait 3 days to get a response. That shouldn't be the case. You should maybe have a tiered system. Maybe leave the Telegram to be more open for people to, just easily get in, and then have another Telegram or a Discord or something where it's a little bit more constrained, a bit more regulated and so on. I don't know, but ultimately, I think what's happening here is that they lack a community. I can't see how they're building community. Okay, so feel free to let me know. Am I missing anything? Is there an unofficial Discord where everybody's at? And I usually don't like unofficial. I want official because the official outlets are the ones that we can critique with validity. Okay, so I would just hope that would be the case. Now back to the tokenomics and all of that. You can see how they're all intertwined. There is a burning mechanism. Great. Most coins are out in circulation. Awesome. 91% of them are already there based on the total market cap, the total supply. Great. Unlimited max supply, a bit of an issue. The problem is the reason why I say that this is a bit of an issue, obviously because people, the retail market, when they go see an infinite supply based on the sentiment of what that means, it really makes people run away. Okay, and there's not enough emphasis on what the burning mechanism does. If they are going to publicize that it is a max supply, they need to quickly educate. And this is why I say all of this stuff that I talked about should be packaged up in a Git book, so it could be very easily, read and done. Do a quick deep dive for a retailer to come in and see all these things in a nice package. Their current white paper focuses completely on the tech rather than the white papers on the project or the token itself. This packaging needs to happen as soon as possible because there's a lot of false information that is being spread. And to be honest, like even some of the information that I'm trying to explain to you here could lack a bit of clarity given the fact that I had to dig to find it. So what needs to happen here is we have to understand that although it is a max supply, the burning mechanism is there to keep inflation at bay. But the unlimited supply is controlled by the DAO. But the burning mechanism is controlled by the ecosystem and its growth and its transactions that get involved in that ecosystem. It's a chain of events, and it's a combination of everything that makes it difficult to point a figure at how this project needs to improve. It just needs growth, and that's the hardest thing to achieve. And that growth is usually brought to us by adoption. Are we going to get that for ICP, especially with the saltiness that still exists from the past? 7 out of 10 for the relationships. A lot of decent relationships there. We got United Nations Development Program. Are we crazy about that? I don't know. I'm on the fence. Whenever I see those traditional big conglomerate organizations getting involved, it kind of bothers me. But we get a lot of other ones. The only one that I can clearly identify is Alchemy Pay, which is an on and off ramp, which is great. That's good stuff there. But ultimately, the rest of them, they're like, I saw tourist custody before, but really, there are other little small relationships. And the fact is that they're a one-stop shop for everything. And that's why I gave it great, a great rating for their utility. Is that they don't really need too many partnerships. They do everything on their own. Okay, so this is a really interesting. I'm surprised they didn't even have a ramp to get things going, to get cryptos on board and all of that. 10 out of 10, available on all major exchanges, including Coinbase and Binance, guys. So this is good, to see it listed on both major exchanges and many others. It's on Mexi and KuCoin and all the rest. This is great. There's no room for improvement here. Is that an opportunity? Is that a negative? Ultimately, there's lots of liquidity. So that's a good thing. Is there room for growth? Not really, because usually a lot of people wait for coin listings to expect the price to go up. Guys, there's no more listings. It's everywhere. So that's a good thing. It's a good thing. You got options on where to get, to buy and sell. Now, let's do a quick verdict, guys. This was a tough one. I'll be honest. It was a tough one because it's like a project that a lot of people love to hate. But at the same time, they love to love, right? Because there's a lot to like about it, but there's also a lot to criticize. So it's an L1 deep-in smart contract type of project. There's a lot more to be said, and it can kind of dabble into various narratives, given that it is a one-stop shop. But we'll keep it simple. The NNS, which is the central, let's say, call it a system, the nervous system of the DAO, mints ICP tokens for two reasons. I mentioned this already. This is the reason why I put this here on this cheat sheet, let's say, is so that you can keep this in mind. This is how the tokenomics currently are basically being affected. We are issuing more tokens than we are burning. And this is why the supply keeps on increasing slightly, but it is. Now, how could we fix this? Obviously, the only other way is to burn more. How can we burn more? We need more dApps or applications to be deployed that are willing to pay for compute and storage. We need more transaction fees. We need mostly for those two. Okay, we don't want failed proposals. That's not really valuable. But these two right here. And if you look at the common factor between these two first points, it's adoption. Okay, we need a lot more to happen there. Okay, so that's that. Dominic Williams, founder and chief scientist and visionary behind that internet computer. Okay, he's a great leader there. He was notably active in the early Ethereum ecosystem and has expressed admiration for Ethereum's pioneering role. And that's a key word, pioneering role in the blockchain world. The reality is Ethereum is starting to show its age. Right, given that there's not a lot more technology and new L1s entering that are offering a lot more to their value proposition. So this is a key statement here. And ICP, in fact, in my opinion, it just came out in the wrong time and it came out in the wrong way, in my opinion. So that's that. Telegram requires an application. I feel like that's a bad thing. No official Discord. Correct me if I'm wrong, and lots of historical FUD to overcome. And without a proper community, it's hard to overcome that, and for me, that's a bit of an issue. So there's a lack of marketing execution here in order to get this thing, in a different light. Let's put it that way. Price projection. Reality is, I can see this thing doing a 5x. Why not? I know its market cap will be large, but this is an ecosystem that is massive. And if it picks up, it could do a lot more. The reality is this could be one of the bigger projects ever to be used in the crypto space because it has a lot of utility, lots of capability. The problem is that people are not adopting it. So what good is it to have an amazing project or amazing idea, lots of great innovation, but nobody wants it? What is the disconnect here? And this is part of marketing. This is the part of the marketing teams needs to really pick up their pace here and figure out how to get the ICP repositioned in the consumer's mind. Because currently in this environment, majority of the market does not really do well when they hear the letters ICP. It's almost like a negative, right? Why is that the case? It needs to be evaluated and repositioned as soon as possible for ICP to make it. I give it an 8 out of 10 because the reality is it is a decent project. The thing is again, there's a lot of things dampering its progress in the last little while. All right, guys, I know you're here to talk about charts as well. So let's take a look at the price action In the last little while, guys, ICP's been doing pretty good, kind of hesitating in a good, nice bottom structure. But the bigger issue is what happened in the past. I hate to bring up the past, but I have a feeling that this is what's causing ICP a bit of a struggle. Look at this, guys. Huge moves to the downside in its early days, to the point that it left a lot of people quite salty from its top dollar. All right, guys, let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail. Guys, I hate to do this, but you can imagine how this looks and how, people feel. I'm looking at a Binance chart right now, and at one given point, ICP was trading at a very, very high valuation, and, there was a lot of capital being thrown around, and a lot of people took profit, and unfortunately it's the retail investors that get wrecked, and they're the ones that end up paying the bill. And that's usually how communities get destroyed, right? And based on what I said already, there is no community. Could be an apprehension that maybe they don't want to face, maybe they don't want to have FaceTime with community. I don't know. I just know that that's going to be a hard thing to face, is that huge dip to the downside. Now, if we fast forward and we start looking at what's happening right now, I think that's viable. If we start looking at the tokenomics and how, basically the risk of dilution is not as prevalent as it was in the past, and we need to move on, and we got to judge it by its current status. It endured a bear market, and it's still here with us, ultimately going sideways here on the weekly time frame, and it made a beautiful double bottom scenario. It did play a bit of games, coming down for that slightly lower low to hunt liquidity and get people stopped out. That's typical. We can't hold ICP accountable for that. But ultimately, if you were able to endure and buy the dips all into this level, you see my green arrows, you would have done very well taking profit at the red arrow. That's the way it works, guys. Now that we're back down, back testing the previous highs, we're at another good level. Again, introducing yellow boxes, DCA zones, green arrows, buy the dips. These are good levels of liquidity to potentially hunt for good prices. We can see we got another reaction to the upside, but another quick rejection on the same resistance that I basically made it clear of in the past at about $15.41. Now, what are we doing here, guys? It does look like it's consolidating. To be honest, it looks like it's consolidating. I can see a symmetrical type of triangular formation right into here. I'm going to loosely put in some lines because really there's not enough data points. So I'm going to make them, to emphasize the looseness of this, I'm going to make them dotted lines. And that way we can just be clear that, we're just kind of entertaining the fact that, it could end up being a nice, type of triangular formation where we potentially see this as a continuation pattern. Maybe that's a little bit too far-fetched. The reality is we usually break out towards 70% of the apex, which is right around the zone. So at any given point, since we're on a bull run, we could expect something like that eventually. Okay, that would be an ideal thing. The thing is that we also have resistance at $40. We also have resistance at $90. Are we even going to think about getting this thing right back to previous highs and so on? I don't want to go there. Ultimately, I can see, take it day by day. Ultimately, I can see a good amount of volume right into this zone, as you can see. And last time we got a good amount of volume, we got a nice spike to the upside. So I kind of like where we are right now. Given that the market is looking for its continuation to the upside, we could expect that ICP could move as well. And again, it's all about, could the market eventually, basically give it a second chance, because there's a lot of that negativity still lingering around. Okay, so I think that it's due for a second chance. I think it's not bad of a project to have a bit of allocation, because you got to admit its ambitions are so strong, and the way they're doing it, to be honest, I don't see any issues. The reality is it could be a really, really decent project, and we could see a lot of a good future instead of focusing on its history. So the price action needs to kind of like, put its money where its mouth is and start breaking out here. And I still feel like this is a great area to start taking a bit of risk, because your invalidation is literally below these lows. If we break below these lows, it's going to be painful, and we're coming back down to this level. And you can see there's a huge spike of volume anywhere based on price action looking left. So all this zone really is an accumulation zone, because you can see a lot of volume right into here. right? There's no expansion out of this zone. We have a lot of volume, whether it be sell pressure, buy pressure, whatever it is, because we're getting a bit of volume. But the reality is we're going sideways. We're consolidating in preparation for an expansion. I don't think the expansion is going to be to the downside. I think the expansion is going to be to the upside, given that the bias is bullish in the last little while. Let's take a look at the oscillators. You can see that here on the weekly, we're still looking bullish. EMA is facing up, green histogram bars. There's a bit of a rollover here. That's fine on the weekly, and we could get a bit of a reset, but we didn't even get overbought. So what I really want to do is get to the daily, because the daily is what most of us are looking at as far as structure. And we can see that on the daily, the market in general has been pulling back. Okay, Bitcoin led by Bitcoin. And I'm glad that we were able to identify this Bitcoin dip here on the channel really early and prepare for this scenario, because right now we're in a position of strength, being able to deploy capital at bottoms instead of tops. And you can see that ICP is, retesting its previous bottom, and hopefully we can hold it as support. If we do not, we're going to start to hunt this liquidity and basically get people wrecked. And if we start making lower lows and lower than the $6.69 mark, guys, it's not looking good for ICP. In fact, we're making a confirmed lower low and coming down to $4.50 and even lower to hunt some more liquidity down here. I am not in the mindset to think that that's going to happen. We could definitely come down and triple bottom. We can come down to these levels, no doubt, but making a lower low is going to give us, or coming down to the previous low is going to give us the best risk to reward ratio possible to go for longs, especially if we start to get structure here, especially if we see the daily oversold, the purple line getting oversold and getting signs of bullish divergence, and EMAs getting the EMA cross right here with the green histogram bar to the upside. That would be an ideal level. The daily is still bearish, but it's not exclusive to ICP, guys. This is super important to understand. This is not exclusive to ICP. This is a market-wide sentiment led by Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the large caps, and the total market cap is falling in the last little while. And we have to understand we're in a sell-off period in the short-term cycles, right? And speaking of short-term cycles, look at the 4-hour, guys. It's okay to get onto the 4-hour nowadays because we're in a bull run. We want to make sure we take full advantage. We got to oversold scenarios twice. Okay, I'm going to quickly make this a bit smaller and show you what I see here on this chart. You can see that the price came down for a lower low here. Very clearly lower lows. Okay, let me just quickly put a line in here so we can be on the same page, and let's not make this dotted. You can see that we're making lower lows and very clearly, right? And then if you start to look at what's going on with the momentum, the purple lines, you see it's double bottom. That is a class C bullish divergence. Okay, now we do see the expansions, this expansion much bigger than this one, so I'm not really crazy about that. The bears are still in control here, right? It's not like the expansion showed weakness. The volatility line, it got overbought. Now it's looking like it wants to get oversold. Is it going to fake us out right now, because it does look like a little bit confused at the current moment? Is it going to start going overbought again and we're going to start getting a reversal? The only thing that we have is this class C bullish divergence, which class C is the weakest type of divergence you're going to see. Now, when we start looking at this on the 4-hour and we start introducing more lines, let's put another trend line above. You can see that it starts to look like a descending or a falling wedge. Okay, so we could still fall through this wedge a little bit more. Whether you want to include a wicks, then it looks like a channel. If you exclude the wicks, it starts to look like a wedge. Regardless, eventually, once we start, if we keep on coming down here, eventually this should break out bullish once again. The thing is, how low do we go? What level of horizontal support do we use in order to make that pivot point structure to start reversing to the upside? Is the class C bullish divergence actually going to get its follow through? That is the concern. Now, if we start looking at the trend, the momentum oscillator, we're in the bearish control zone. It does look a bit confused. This last expansion was so weak in comparison to the previous. I don't see much other than this little bullish divergence that we see between these two bottoms. But really, guys, I'm not crazy about what's going on market wide. Now, if we do come down, when we see ICP starting to round off here and break trend and change character, because that's important, change a character, break a trend. These are first signals, break a trend. Second signal, you can be looking for divergence in oversold conditions. Third signal is looking for a change of character. A change of character right here would be defined as maybe looking for a cup and handle, an Adam and Eve, inverse head and shoulders. Give me something into this level that suggests that we're ready to pivot to the upside, because at the current moment, we can see that we're trying to catch a falling knife on the daily, and that's what's keeping me me at bay in the last little while to deploying capital, including in ICP or any other projects in the market. Guys, if I've offered you any value in this video, do the channel a massive favor. Slap the like button. It does really help out with the algorithm. If you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description below. Feel free to join the Discord, guys. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. The best part is it's absolutely free. And if you want to vote on future deep dives, join the Discord. There is a channel there where you can make requests on deep dives and we vote on them. You guys go and you vote, and I do the research, I make the video, and we get ready for this bull run. Guys, take care. See you tonight at 8 p.m. EST, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Take care, guys. Have a good one, and don't forget, buy the dip.